Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to this segment of the virtual Majlis Khudam al-Ahmadiyya National Waqf-e-Nau Rally. In this segment, we'll be discussing about Jamia Ahmadiyya, the institution of Jamia Ahmadiyya, and the misconceptions around the institution of Jamia Ahmadiyya. So, now Jamia was founded over 115 years ago by the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wassalam. There were many reasons around the foundations of Jamia Ahmadiyya being laid. First, Jamia Ahmadiyya was called Madrasa Ahmadiyya, and the promised Messiah ﷺ felt the need that scholars for the Jamaat Ahmadiyya should be produced. As such, the demise of Maulvi Abdul Karim Sahab Sialkoti and Maulana Burhanuddin Jailmi Sahab led to this impact, led to this foundation of Jamia being laid. Now we see that these two scholars had great impact on the Jamaat. So Aleem Sahab, obviously there are many Jamiat around the world, and there's obviously Jamia Ahmadiyya UK, there's Jamia Ahmadiyya Ghana, there's many different Jamiat around the world. So why should Waqf-e-Nau, it's been 115 years, why should Waqf-e-Nau join Jamia today?
Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Mutarrif Sahab, this is a very interesting question that you put. And the first thing to remember is that we are all Waqf, and therefore it's our duty to present ourselves forward for the Jamaat. And what better way to fulfill this duty than to look at the requirements of the Jamaat and go forward and fulfill those requirements. I would like to bring a quote here from Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasr Aziz from the 2016 National Waqf-e-Nau Ijtima, in which Hazur outlines the importance and the priority that he gives to Jamia Ahmadiyya UK and that Waqf-e-Nau should join Jamia Ahmadiyya UK. Hazur says, and I quote, "You should certainly pursue options that are of interest to you. However, I would also urge as many of you as possible to consider applying to Jamia Ahmadiyya. The reason for this is we have a huge requirement for missionaries throughout the world. Even though whole classes of Jamia Ahmadiyya UK have already graduated, the requirements of missionaries just here in the UK have still not been fulfilled. Furthermore, there are many other English-speaking countries where we need missionaries. And so, I would advise you to consider joining Jamia with the spirit that this will be a great means of fulfilling your pledge of Waqf." Now here it becomes crystal clear what Hazur's expectations are. Hazur expects Waqf-e-Nau to join Jamia Ahmadiyya UK because this should be their first priority. Of course, if you have other priorities or other interests, then you might wish to pursue those, but Jamia should be your first priority. As well as this, in Surah Al Imran, in chapter 3 of the Holy Quran, Allah the Almighty states, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ," that there should be a group amongst you that invites people to goodness. And essentially, Jamia Ahmadiyya is the only institution in the world that is carrying out this command of Allah the Almighty. So you should join Jamia Ahmadiyya because you will be able to fulfill the command of Allah the Almighty and say labbaik to the instructions of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih.
All the Jamiats in the Ahmadiyya Muslim community are special in their own way. However, by the grace of Allah, Jamia Ahmadiyya UK holds a very special position, being based less than 10 miles away from the Khilafat headquarters in Islamabad. In the Friday sermon, in which Hazur outlined his move to Islamabad in 2019, a very important point he mentioned was that it is important for Jamia to be near Markaz too, and there was great wisdom behind this point. We can offer namaz behind Hazur daily and do duties in Islamabad. Our letters we write for Hazur are delivered on a daily basis, and we personally send weekly diaries to Hazur about our activities. All these are key to developing a bond with Khilafat. Hazur himself has mentioned in the recent convocations that he receives regular updates on all the activities in Jamia UK. So, in a nutshell, Jamia UK does hold a very special position, but not because of its own qualities, but because of the blessings of being closest to Khilafat.
Obviously, Aleem Sahab, you rightfully mentioned that, an integral part of Jamia is Khilafat. So obviously, you've been through 5 years in Jamia. what are some of your experiences, from the very start, from Umayyad, from the first year of Jamia Ahmadiyya UK, until now, the 5th year? What are some of your experiences with the Khilafat?
So Mutarrif Sahib, you rightly say that Khilafat is an integral part of Jamia. And essentially, Khilafat is like the nucleus and Jamia is the electrons that revolve around it. Everything that happens in Jamia is through the guidance of Khilafat. Now, not just me, any student from Jamia, if you were to pick them out and you were to ask them about Khilafat, they could give you so many examples of their personal experiences and their personal connection with Khilafat. And the fundamental reason for this is that Jamia Ahmadiyya students are blessed with the opportunity of having private mulaqats with Hazur Anwar Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasir Aziz. Every day, 3 students from Jamia Ahmadiyya are blessed with the opportunity to have a private mulaqat with Hazur Anwar. And in this mulaqat, you can ask any questions that you have, any queries, any issues that you are going through, and you can request Hazur for prayers. And you realize that throughout your time in Jamia, when you have these mulaqats, you develop a personal bond with Hazrat Khalifatul Masih. And I don't think any of us could have imagined having this bond before we joined Jamia Ahmadiyya. Personally, I've also had the opportunity of having these mulaqats, and I've asked Hazur questions and I've told him about any issues that I'm undergoing, and Hazur has given me such loving advice and such affectionate answers that I can still remember them to this day, and it's something that you can't describe to other people. But apart from that, during my 5 years in Jamia, Hazur has blessed us with his presence at numerous events. We've had the opportunity of having 2 classes with Hazur Anwar, and the important thing that we all noticed in these classes is the love that Hazur shows. It's like a father who has just come back from work and he is spending time with his children. The atmosphere is completely relaxed and it's completely mesmerizing to see, and it's something you can't experience, you can't describe in words. You have to be there to feel it. As well as this, there's the convocation which happens every year, which Hazur graciously attends, and he not only awards the missionaries that are graduating, he also gives prizes to the 1st, 2nd and 3rd position holders of each year from the 1st year to the last year. And that is such a big blessing because he doesn't need to do this, but it's just his mere love and his affection that he has for us, for why he does this.
Obviously, just to add to what you said, Aleem Saab, you mentioned that Khilafat is obviously, the relation of a student with Khalifatul Masih during the 5 years is very close. But obviously, due to the current situations right now, Khilafat has been very close to Jamia students as well, as many Jamia students have been able to carry out duties in Islamabad. So right now we have present via video link Zephyr Tahir Saab and Noor Hadi Saab, who are with us. And if we could go to Zephyr Tahir Saab first, you've obviously spent a couple of months now with Khilafat. You've been physically the closest to Khilafat for the past few months. If you could please enlighten us on some experiences you've had with the Khilafat.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. So Mutarrif Sahib, as you mentioned, that for the past year, myself and some of my classmates have been in Islamabad, and we have had the opportunity to carry out some duties for Jamia Ahmadiyya, as well as work in some of the offices, Markazi offices, which are located here. Now, apart from this, we have been extremely fortunate to have had the opportunity of regular sittings with Hazur Anwar. And as Aleem Saab mentioned earlier, that a fundamental part of Jamia Ahmadiyya is our opportunity to develop our relationship and bond with Hazur Anwar, Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasir Aziz. And I can genuinely say that due to Jamia, I have received this opportunity. And this year, because our last year at Jamia came to quite an abrupt end, and we missed out on the 2nd semester and were instead called over to Islamabad. I would say that this has been the biggest blessing in disguise for us, because not only are we physically near Hazur Anwar, Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasir Aziz, but we have been regularly sitting in the company of Hazur, and we've had some amazing experiences of sitting in the company of Hazur. So regarding this, I would like to share a few incidences which I hope are faith inspiring for others as well, and it would encourage others to join Jamia Ahmadiyya. You will realize that these blessings come naturally with Jamia. So the first thing I would like to mention is Hazur Anwar's special attention which he pays to Jamia students. And for us, because we recently passed from Jamia, Hazur Anwar has been showing us the special attention and love that we have never experienced before. So an example I would like to give of this is that during the classes which we have been having with Hazur Anwar, we have noticed that Hazur pays attention to even the minutest of details. He has been paying attention to, of course, our spiritual aspects of life, but also our day-to-day general routine as well. So an example of our spiritual aspect I would like to mention is that during these classes, Hazur Anwar, may Allah strengthen his hand, has been inquiring about our spiritual aspects of our life so far. And during these classes, he has been regularly asking us if we have been praying tahajjud, for example, or if we have been waking up for namaz on time, etc. So one thing which I would like to mention is that Hazur has been laying emphasis on nawafil prayers, so much so that almost every class Hazur has been asking us about it. And not only would he ask about the day of the class, he would ask if we have prayed tahajjud the previous week or not. And Hazur would really emphasize that every murabbi, every muballigh should be offering 1 hour tahajjud every single day. Now the incident which I would like to mention here is that once during our class, Hazur Anwar was speaking about and emphasizing the importance of praying tahajjud. And during this session, Hazur said to us to get our notebooks and pen ready. So now at this point, we were a bit confused. We were like, is Hazur going to make us write something down? So Hazur said, get your pens and notebooks ready. I'm going to say a sentence and I want you all to write this down. So the sentence which Hazur made us write down, I will quote here. It's in Urdu and I will explain in English. So Hazur said that Allah Ta'ala ka qurb पाने के लिए फ़राइज़ इबादत के अलावा नवाफिल भी ज़रूरी हैं और एक मुरब्बी को ये कुर्ब हासिल करने की कोशिश अपनी इंतहा तक पहुंचानी चाहिए. Now this means that to attain nearness to Allah the Almighty is just as important. It is just as important to offer your voluntary prayers as it is to offer your compulsory prayers. And a murabbi should strive towards attaining this nearness. Now, this just proves how much emphasis Hazur Anwar has been laying on the spiritual aspects of our life. And now another point which I would like to add is something which Hazur mentioned in the class, which is that Hazur said that although you guys are murabbiyan and your knowledge should be on a level where you can compete with others, non-Ahmadis for example, Hazur said that there are many non-Ahmadis who know their quotes of the Holy Quran, their references, their ahadith off by heart. And Hazur said that they may actually be better than you. But one thing which I expect from murabbiyan is for them to be better in their spiritual aspects and be way ahead of everyone else. And this is the spiritual attention that Hazur has been laying and emphasizing for us. Now, since we have been in Islamabad for the past year, Hazur Anwar has been paying particular attention to our day-to-day life, our routine at the same time. Hazur even inquires about what time we wake up, if we're having food on time, what foods we're eating, if we're exercising, for example, and also if we're taking care of our cleanliness. Now, regarding cleanliness, I would like to mention a quick incident. Whilst we were staying in Islamabad, we were residing in the hall, and during our time here, we have seen that Hazur Anwar comes out for inspections sometimes. And usually he doesn't come towards the hall, but inspects the premises around it. Now, once what happened was that Hazur Anwar came to inspect the kitchen area. And after this, instead of going back to his premises, Hazur went straight into the hall. Now, when we realized that Hazur is going into the hall, we sort of understood that Hazur will be taking a look at our accommodation and inspecting that also. And when Hazur Anwar actually went towards our accommodation, he noticed that it wasn't too organized and it wasn't as clean as he expected. And I was fortunate enough to be standing near Hazur at that point. And Hazur actually said to me that, has Jamia not taught you to, make your beds or keep your areas clean and organized? So from this, what I understood was that Hazur is actually paying so much attention towards our day-to-day routine at the same time. And that a small thing such as making your bed, this is something which we may overlook or consider not too significant. But this is something which Hazur emphasized at the same time and said that, every murabbi should also keep their bed clean and keep their areas organized.
Jazakallah Fatar Sahab. If I could come to you, Nur Hadi Sab, you've obviously been blessed with the same opportunities. You've obviously spent a couple months in Islamabad with Hazur. So if you could please enlighten us on some moments you've had with Hazur Ektas or in your stay in Islamabad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jazakallah for having me on. I consider this a huge honor to actually be here and be involved in this virtual rally. And of course, as you're all aware, being here, of course, has been one of the biggest blessings. Because as everyone, as of course Mutarraf Saab and Aleem Saab, as you're aware, when Jamia comes to a close or comes to an end, the graduating class usually go off to Africa, Pakistan and Spain and spend a few months there training. But of course, due to the pandemic, we've had to actually stay in Islamabad. But this also goes to show exactly how much Huzur pays attention to each and every individual's future posting and where he should be going after he completes Jamia. Because Huzur keeping us here just highlights the fact that Huzur wants to get to know each and every individual so closely that if he points them anywhere in the world, he knows that he did so personally and it was through his own personal guidance. So just to highlight one of the incidences actually that took place, and it's something more relating to Jamia. I think we as students of Jamia Ahmadiyya UK, although we're very fortunate that our results every year go to Huzur Anwar, but most recently actually in one of our sittings, Huzur actually shared one of the most recent classes results with us. And that in fact was really astonishing for me. And I was overwhelmed because Huzur in this class, after the lesson had finished, Huzur said that, you know, you guys will soon be posted and the next 7th year batch will, God willing, also join us here. But do you guys know this so-and-so person or this so-and-so person? So we also said to Huzur, yes, Huzur, we know him and those people that Huzur mentioned. But then Huzur went on to say that, did you know that this person in his results got this mark and this percentage? And we thought, okay, fine, that, wow, like Huzur remembered each and every person's results that just came out. But Huzur went on to say that, no, but this person in the previous years would get this position and his results would be this, these marks. And what actually made me feel very overwhelmed, because we all know that Huzur Anwar, may Allah strengthen his hand, has such a busy schedule. But Huzur went to as far as to go and say that there's one individual in this class that when he first joined Jamia and he had his first semester results, his exact percentage was this, and now after 7 years, his percentage is this. So we were just like, wow, like how can this happen? So for me, this was really inspiring, and it just goes to show what other institute or other academic institute in the world can say that their head teacher or their, let's say, leader pays so much minute detail into each and every person's grades. Just to go on from that, actually, something that's a bit more personal to myself, actually, is that after spending a few months here, I got a random call from Tabshir, which is the Foreign Missions Office of the Markaz or the headquarters of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. And they called me and they said, this is a letter for you, read it and just do what it says. So I looked at the letter and I said, okay. And I saw that the first line, it said, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah, respected so-and-so and so. Huzur Anwar, may Allah strengthen his hand, has appointed you to this country, and please do the following, right? So at that time, it felt as if the earth underneath me had actually just disappeared, and I was really shocked. I was like, wow, this is quite something, right? The next class came, and I thought, you know, maybe Huzur will mention it, and I was just sitting there, and I was just thinking that perhaps Huzur will say something, or Huzur will mention it, and to be honest, I couldn't really pay attention in that class that much, because this thought was just in my mind saying that, does even Huzur even remember me, or was this a posting done by, you know, the Intizamiya behind him? So then at that moment, Huzur looked at me and he looked into my eyes and smiled. And he said, why are you worried? Have you received news about your posting? And I just smiled back and I said, Ji Huzur. And he said, is everything okay? And will you be all right, basically? And I said, Huzur, that's, yes, however you, whatever you say, I'm ready to do whatever you command, right? And Huzur beautifully gave me more guidance, and he literally spent another extra 5-10 minutes just shedding more light upon what I need to do, the tasks that I have ahead of me. And even jokingly said that if I had gotten married, or if I had settled a, you know, rishta by now, or, you know, have I found a suitable spouse for myself? And Huzur jokingly said that the country you're going to, maybe I can find you a girl in that country as a suitable match so it can help you with your, your mission ahead. So this was an immense, moment for me to even think that Huzur Anwar would actually spend so much time and put so much emphasis or so much, attention and focus into someone like me, or just a normal Murabbi of the Jamaat. But this just goes to show that Huzur Anwar spends so much of his time pondering over what exactly we should be doing or where we should be going next. And I feel as if this was probably one of the biggest blessings for me staying in Islamabad.
Some light on how great Khilafat is, on how much of a close connection the Khalifa has with the students of Jamia Ahmadiyya, not just whilst they are in Jamia, but also afterwards. And Huzaifa Tahir Sahab, Jazakallah to you as well. And now we'll come back to the studio. Alizia Sahab, there's obviously a lot of misconceptions around Jamia. I mean, you and I have both been through the process of applying for Jamia and having all those thoughts right before Jamia, Jamia is going to be like this, Jamia is going to be like that. Obviously, there's going to be certain restrictions, we're not going to be able to do certain things. So, one of those things that people think or have this misconception of is Jamia all about studying? Is it just about study? Is there anything else about Jamia?
Yes, there is a studying aspect to Jamia, but that's not the only aspect in Jamia. For example, if we look at the subjects that we are taught in Jamia, we learn the Quran, the commentary of the Quran, the translation, the ahadith, jurisprudence, so many different languages, so many comparisons with other faiths that studying doesn't become a burden anymore. In fact, it becomes something of interest. But looking at the routine of Jamia, it's not just studying. From 8 to 2, you have your compulsory study time like any other institute. But after 2 o'clock, it's your choice, independent time for you to do what you want to do. For example, you can organize a game of football. You can gather a few friends and play football. Or we have basketball facilities, volleyball facilities, cricket, table tennis, badminton, so many sports that you can take part in that you're never tired of the studying aspect. And one thing that I want to mention here is that like any other worldly institution, if you want to be successful, you have to work hard. And likewise in Jamia, you do need to study, but that's not the only thing that happens in Jamia.
In fact, there's another misconception about Jamia, and that is of, food. Some people think that because, you go to Jalsa and you see that people are eating dal and aloo gosh, and that's all you get in Jalsa, for example. That's what people think, right? So they think that in Jamia, the food menu is focused on dal and aloo gosh as well. But, in fact, that is not the case. For example, if I talk about myself, I like burger and chips, right? But, some people would actually be surprised when they find out that, burger and chips is actually a part of the menu in Jamia. And this menu has been approved by Hazur Aqdas. And there's actually, something different for breakfast, lunch and dinner. It's not always the same. And that varies obviously throughout the week. Now, Aleem Saab, obviously there's another misconception people have, and that is that, they think that you have to be of a certain standard to join Jamia Ahmadiyya. Is that true?
This misconception that Jamia is like a factory and there's robots being prepared inside it and everyone's perfect. I too thought this, and I thought, how would I fit into this environment? But when you join Jamia, you realize that not everyone is as different as you. You've all been brought up in the same environment. You've gone to the same schools. You have been brought up in the same Western culture. So how can it be that he's perfect and you are who you are? The 7-year process that we have in Jamia, it's a time for you to reform yourself, for tarbiyat and for discipline. If everyone was perfect from the start, then there wouldn't be a need for this 7-year period. And the thing that you have to remember here and look out for is, it's not the level that you are at the start when you join Jamia. It's about which level you reach when you end Jamia. And if there is progress there, like Huzaifa Tahir Sahab mentioned that Hazur Anwar wants you to be spiritually enhanced. If there is a spiritual progress there, then that is, in a sense, a successful time that you've spent in Jamia.
Jazakallah Aleem Zia Sahab. Unfortunately, this is all we have time for today. And obviously, if any of you have any other questions about Jamia Ahmadiyya, the Institute, you can feel free to ask those questions via email or comment in the YouTube section below. Jazakallah.